Hi, welcome back to the MemSQL Developer Livestream. This is so much fun. Last week we were working on user authentication, and that was really cool. We got all of the API built out, and we can log in with a database user to the website, and all of the queries execute based on that user. What's particularly cool here is that in addition to executing as that user, we're able to do some role checks ahead of time. Grab the code in the description if you'd like to continue on. Today we're going to look at user administration. In particular, we're going to build out the master and detail, the list and the edit, so that we can take a look at all of the users, change their roles, update passwords. So let's dive in. Now the cool thing is that we haven't upgraded Storybook in a bit, and so I did do that off screen. I just updated all of the Storybook components. And one of the cool things is zero config TypeScript. That is cool. So let's come in here and we can just nuke our webpack.config.ts. No, the other delete, the one that's delete. Okay, we also need to change the config a little bit. A11Y is replaced with something else, and so, yeah. I'm going to say / since we don't have a wacky Webpack config, and that should get us where we need to be. Now there is one more change in here inside add-on Vuetify, inside decorator. This search params, dark, RTL, we're not using those. And we do need to pull in the theme because we're using Font Awesome. So if we look here at the plugins, Vuetify, we need this content right here. Let's remove the extra commas there. Okay, so we need that. And that'll get us where we need to go. Let's double check and make sure I got all the things. Comma. Okay. So that gets our Storybook config set up. Now I grabbed Storybook by just going npm check -u. I love npm check because I can just kind of go through here and say, yes, I'd like to update this one and this one and this one. Not that one, not that one, this one. And I can just pick all the things. So I have gone through all of the projects already and done that. We won't do that here. Instead, now that we've got Storybook, npm run storybook serve. This will take a minute to build up, but let's build up a Storybook so that we can build out the user administration things. The first thing we'll do is build out a list. So let's dig in there. Close out all of these. I want a list component. Let's come in here to components, new file, user list.view. Product list is probably the closest that we have so far, so let's start there. And granted, we need to change all the things that say product to user. Product code, this will be username. We'll go to user, username. Let's show the username. This is types user. Do we have a types user? I don't think we do yet. Let's clone that in a second. We'll have username, username. Actually, let's go grab that user. We will likely need to actually restart Storybook in a second. API, source, types, user. Okay, user, we will set that here inside types, user. Cool, now we have types user. So in a user, this will be value. It will be of types user. And we have this navigate. Let's say user router.push user Ooh, there we go. Username. So there's a component that will rig up users. In a user, we have a bunch of properties. We have the username, we have the secret, the password, and the roles. Those roles, those are what we want to enumerate. And so we could say roles. Let's say roles. We don't have an active column, but set password. This one is secret. And that'll get us started there. A new story here inside stories. Now we don't have a whole bunch of stories here. We were building out the stories inside the front-end application, not the administrative application. So similarly, our tests are pretty hosed. We just have an example. But anyway, let's create a new story, new file, user list.stories.ts. And here's properties. That's probably a good place to start. Now this isn't pulling from properties, it's pulling from user list, user list, user list, user list, user list, edit, I don't know, configured made work better. And here we'll have a sample user list. vModel is model. We don't have any of the rest of this yet, and we probably don't need to wrap it in a thing so that we can look at other things. Not yet. We may come back to that. Sample user list. Const sample user list of type user array equals username. Oh, nope. Username user1 roles user role dot catalog read only. That's for user 1. User 2, we will say you have everything. User role catalog read only, and catalog editor, and user editor. In hindsight, maybe user admin is the right one to do, but okay. Import user role, or user and user role from source types user. Okay, now let's see, did Storybook keep up? From expected. Oh, maybe it did. From. What line number were you on? You were on line 3. Ah. It did keep up. That's cool. Okay, so here's our user list. Knobs. There's our user. That's pretty cool. The markup. Oh, we're still passing in properties, which it doesn't know how to do. User list. Let's go grab user list. Okay. User list. Ooh, we are not showing data. Here in our user list, I bet we're looping through the wrong thing. Yep. Value. Okay. Now we've got it. Okay. So here's our username. Now this is not correctly rendering the router link. Let's come back to that one. But this one would be a link. We've got the catalog. That's not a great way to do it. We'd like a button here. What if we did, like, I don't know, checkboxes or forms? Forms. I'm here on the, oh, there it is. Selects. I'm here on the documentation for Vuetify, and Vuetify has these. Hey, that's pretty cool. Let's do that. That sounds really awesome. So let's create columns for each of the roles, and then we'll have a slider where we can toggle it on and off. What we're quickly approaching, though, is that here we have a user, and we could, take this user and we could flip it into a thing and have lots of calculated properties. Let's instead flip this over from using a user to using a user model. New file, user model.ts. Okay, export type user model. A user model will have a username that is a string. It will have a catalog read only that is a Boolean, a catalog editor that is a Boolean, and a user editor that is a Boolean. And we may have a password. Well, let's call it secret because everything else does. That is a string or undefined. Now, because we have this mechanism of having those three roles, it's a little bit less durable if we were to add more roles, but I think it'll create a really great user experience. So let's flip over and do it this way. Starting off in here, let's grab user model from user model. And now this is a user model array. So this will say catalog read only is false, catalog editor is true, user editor is false. Yeah, that's a little bit different than what the array was. Okay, now here we will say these are all true. Cool. Now that this is a user model, in here on the user list control, let's also add this as a user model. We probably won't need anything from types user anymore. So let's just flip it over. Now instead of roles, we can say text is catalog read only, value is catalog read only, and let's get 3 of those. This is catalog editor, and this one is user editor. In hindsight, we might want to rename that user admin. Catalog editor. That'll be fun because we'll get to dig into database migrations to make that happen. Okay, so this is a user model now. It still has a username, so I'm able to navigate just fine. Similar here, I've got a username and I can navigate off to the thing. Okay, back in Storybook, how does this component look? I'm getting no content there. I'm getting no content probably because, because I didn't build out the templates yet. Okay, so username, catalog read only. Let's go find that checkbox. It is a vSwitch. That is awesome. Now in this case, we probably don't need a label because, well, we've already got a label. But there's the vSwitch. We don't want it disabled though. vModel is item.catalog read only. And let's do that again for catalog editor. Let's see how that worked out. Ooh, yes! Haha, we don't have push of undefined. That's interesting. Oh, yes. We probably don't want to click the row to navigate as we're switching stuff, so I bet we can just nuke this whole navigate method. Now it'll get a little bit mad that we have an empty methods thing, but let's come back to that one. Or we'll create an empty method just to make it happy. Cool. Yeah, that works. And that's a whole lot better than just true or false. So let's flip over this next one too. Catalog editor. This will be user editor. And we'll do one more for secret. And this one won't be a V switch. This will be a V button, V icon. What icon should we choose? Let's choose one that's like, I don't know, a lock or a key. Let's say user. I am in the free mode for Font Awesome. Ooh, user plus. That looks really interesting. Let's say key or lock. Oh, key. That one looks gorgeous. Let's definitely use that one. Key. So we want FA-key. Okay. Icon is FA-key. And how does our component look? Ooh. That's pretty cool. Now it doesn't do anything yet, but I think we've got all of the things. Unknown custom element router link. I think it might be time to dig into that one. Router link. So Storybook router is a thing. And our Storybook Vue router is a thing, and Storybook router allows us to do some interesting things. So instead of just with knobs, I'll also use Storybook router, and Storybook router allows us to do more things like specifying how that navigates, but that'll get us through the day. Now it did, Vue DevTools did replace all the things, so that's why it's here. Configure is deprecated. Yeah, I couldn't get that main.js to go, but I think we've got the basics of this in place, and that's cool. There's that link off to the detail page. We haven't built that detail page yet. Let's build this pop-up. Now, one of the things that I think is really cool here about tables, data tables. Oh, why wouldn't we just use a simple table? We could, and that might, if we used a simple table, that might get us from, not there, there. That might get us from defining basically every column, but the simple table hands us the entire t-body tag, and so we would need to loop through it. We're quickly approaching the point where maybe this should be a separate control and import that control into this control. I think we're doing okay so far, but yeah, let's see. Okay, so there's a spot here, edit. I can spell edit. Edit. Editing. This is cool. If I click on it, not that. Let me go down here. Here's the editing section. Content editing. I can click on it and get it to pop open a box, and I can just do stuff. So rather than having to go to a totally different page, that is really cool. Now I can do this where it's just a little piece, but I kind of like this one where it has the cancel and save button. Okay, so how does that work? Well, what I have inside this, oh, that toast is pretty cool. That might be an elegant way. Here's this template, vslot, and it pulls in this vedit dialog. And so let's go grab this vedit dialog and go do all the things. Now, one of the things that they've pointed out on the forums is there's a vdialog, but the vedit dialog isn't really described in their components. So We're doing a little bit of guessing here. Okay, so first step is we just pulled in item. We spread that to get at the content. Item.secret is what we're after. We probably won't need all of these, but let's see. Item.secret. We don't want that. We want this button. There's that button that will do the thing. And if I remember right, let's go look into my notes. How did I pull that off? Ah, yes. Okay, so here's that. There's that button. Oh, I'm just going to do an icon. Don't need the button. Let's take a look at that in a second. Template, div class, input, vslot input. I have 2 vslot inputs. I don't need both of them. Oh, because that was the old one, my bad. Secret. Now the rules here, we will have, there's no rules for a password other than not blank. So required, that's a good one. New password, single line. I don't need a counter. Autofocus is good. Let's take a look at that and see how that turned out. Oh, cannot read property item of undefined. Did I forget an item? Item. I think, oh, I bet it's mad at these. Let's yank these out for a minute and see if that will get us through the day. Refresh. Okay, so I click the key. Ooh, yes. I can set the new password. I can click save. That's cool. Oh, required is not defined. You're correct. Now I'm noticing that these are left aligned. They're not right aligned. Let's dig into that for a second. Here inside the header, we can say align center. And so let's do that for all the columns. Oops, there we go. Align center, align center, align center. Yes, align center. That's cool. Oh, it kept the password. Let's go fix that in time. These aren't centered. And if we look at this and take a look at what's going on, the input control is full width. If we were to say width is 50px, oh, not that one, that one. This one, if we were to say width is 50px, margin auto, now it's centered. Okay, so let's go create a style that will fix this. Okay, I want this to be class equals table switch. I just made up that name. Now here we can say dot table switch, and width is 50 pixels, margin left is auto, and margin right is auto. Now what scoped is trying to do is it will go through here and do all the things. Because this is a template, it's rendered in a different scope, and so it's not gonna apply because it wants to rewrite that to be a thing, but this actually only gets the, oh, I was wrong. So there we go. There's the div that gets us through. Which one ends up with the, Well, anyway, it's centered. Awesome. So we do need an event to kick off once we change things, and we'll need an event here once we save the password. We also need to validate the password. Let's go into the rules and create a required rule. Okay, here's the headers. Required is a function that takes in a string, and it's either set or the message I get is password is required. Let's rename that password required. That'll be a little bit more descriptive now that it has a purpose. Cool. Back in here, here's our thing. If we click save, oh, we got the thing and it went away real fast, but it didn't wait to close the dialog. I would love to figure out how to get into this to do that, but let's just say instead it's not required, but once we save, then we'll go take action and we'll validate that it does the thing. Okay, so on save, set password for item. What's this set password method? Set password. It will take in a user model. And let's do this dot $emit change user. The user changed, and let's send that user off. Well, then we probably want to nuke the password. So delete user.secret. Well, I'm not sure you're done yet. So let's say const copy user const changed user equals object.assign, and we'll take the user, and let's say we're going to forward off that changed user, and then we'll delete it. We might even want to take another spot and say view.nextTick. And we can await that. That makes this async. And now we won't delete the password until we're ready. But once we do delete the password, then that's great. Here we can also do open equals clear password for item. Here is clear password user model, and we'll just nuke the password. Let's nuke the password and also give it a breath just in case, so that if it's gonna, if it takes a minute to refresh it before it paints, then we'll be good to go. Okay, let's check out how that's working. Set password. We can set the password. Required is not defined. Yes. Actions. Now we would expect the actions to show up here. We haven't built that yet, so let's come into our user list story and take a look at actions. We can pull in the action add-on, and here we can say arg types. Actually, no, let's see if it works without that. Here, that's where we've got it. Model, props, methods, user changed, action, user changed. And now here I can say user changed. Cool. Now when a user gets changed, I'll bind, when the user changed event gets fired, I will bind that to this method, which will call this action and be able to show that content in the action window. Okay, so set password. I've got a new password. Let's save that. Oh, yep, that didn't work. So I guess I do need that other part. Let's come in here and we'll talk about arg types. I have on user updated, and that is an action that is user updated. Okay. I'm not sure where that goes, but now let's refresh this just in case. I'm assuming that TypeScript has built by now too. Let's change the password. Nope. Autofocus was blocked because another content. Okay, so let's get the user changed event when this happens too. Back in our control, we've got this, and we want to say here, we've got the class, we've got the vModel, and we also want to say change equals change user. Now I've got that that change event. So let's get these formatted a little bit. That one, and I need this there, and I need this there. Okay, so what does this change do? Well, here's our change, async change. We get a user model, and we will say this.emit change user. Now in this case, we probably don't need to clone it. We're not going to mutate it after. And you getting an actual instance of the user might be good. Here too, I'm mutating out from under you. If you're going to do anything like mutate that further, Okay, so we've got that change in place. That's perfect. Back here, property method user is not defined on the instance. Oh, interesting. I bet I forgot of this. Nope. I'm going to assume that's old. Let's refresh. Property method user is not defined, but is referenced during render. Oh, I know what it is. This is not user, this is item. Because I'm spreading out the arguments instead of props.item, instead of props.whatever I want, it's props.item. And so that's why it's called item here. I really wish I could call it user though, because like I just did, I'm going to make the mistake and it's not going to show up correctly. Okay. Yeah. We've got this doing what it needs to. We can set the password. When we come back in, the password is clear. Well, right now we're always showing the password. We did a really cool thing on the login form where we said, let's show and hide the password based on whether they click the show or hide button. Let's do that again here. So here is our input. And we can do all of this, show the password things. We just need one more password show here. Password show is true. And now I can see my password if I would like to hide it. There we go. Now that password is hidden. And I can save that. Come back in here, cancel. That works great. Now this will navigate off to nowhere. And so let's wait to build that detail page. Okay, let's start by setting this in context. So we have a user list component. It is getting a smidge big. It may make sense to break this up a little bit, but for now I think we might be okay. Inside the views, let's create a user list view. New file, user list.view. Okay. We can probably start with product list. That's probably the closest that we'll get. This is user list, and it is v model users if users.length. Loading, yep, that works. Loading, this will be user list. Nope, this is user model from types user model. We want a user model array that is called users. This it will be the user list control. Product list model. We can probably call this user list model. Here's the user list model. User list. User list. The user list model does all of the things. Oh, this is users. Haha. Const data of user list model equals that. Now I don't need to as and return data. I don't like the double step, but that way I can cast it straight away, and that's cool. This is an array of users we will get from API users. Page, we may not need page, but users. Users is blank if we have a fail. So now we need to pull in user. We have user model. Let's also pull in user. Okay, now this is an array of users, and this is an array of user models. And we can't just cast the one to the other, so we need to build a mechanism to go between them. I haven't found a great place to put this yet, but since user model is kind of bound to using it that way, let's say export function to user to model. And this will take in a user that is a user and return a user model. Let's say user from model. This will take in a user model and return a user. Now we have done a little bit of, actually no, we haven't yet. Let's do that. So return new, nope, return this. This is a user model. So user model has a username. Username is user.username. Oh, I haven't pulled in user yet. That's why it's mad. Import user. And we'll need user role from user. Okay, so we have username. We also need catalog editor. Well, catalog editor, we can say user.roles.find. This role is user role.catalog editor. And now we have the role. Let's not. So now it will be a Boolean. Cool. User role catalog read only. User role user editor So this will be user editor, catalog, read only, commas, and secret we'll say is user.secret. I can't think of a good use case where we would want to copy it across, but not having it is probably going to yield a bug later. So let's copy it across just in case. Going the other direction, we probably want to say return this. This is a user, so username is user.username. And this part about getting from a list of Booleans to a, well, we've done that here inside login. We did a whole bunch of, where was it? It was in the API. Here in the API source, the other source, routes, auth. Right here we did a big piece about turning Booleans into user roles. So let's just lift that and see if we can get that into place here. Not there. Here. So const roles equals an array, and that roles is a user role array. If user dot catalog read only roles dot push user role catalog read only. Okay, so it's not quite the same. It's pretty close. Catalog editor. Thank you, GoGoGadget. VS Code. This is user editor, and this is user editor. And now I have the roles. Cool. Secret is user.secret. Again, I can't think of a good reason I would want it, but it's going to be a bug later if we don't do it. Okay, so now we have this user from model and user to model back here in the user list. That's the user list component. The user list view, we can say user to model. Well, that's only for one. So let's say result.data.map user to model. Now we need to pull in user to model. Is that going to be able to help us? Yes. Cool. So that will loop through if we have content. So we probably ought to guard this. Oh, we do, if result.data. And that will populate our users. Cool. Now that gets our users into place. We do want to say user changed. Is that what we called it? Change user. I'm going to say save user here because I want to push it back up. So mounted, and we'll say methods save user. This takes in a user model. This will be async. And we want to save it off. So we did a similar thing inside product detail when we were clicking save. We can probably lift a lot of this. Copy, paste. We don't have a save error. We probably ought to figure that one out. We don't have an ID, so we don't really know if it's an update or an insert. So we can just say this is a post to API/user. User model. And now we don't need any of this. That's pretty cool. We don't need to route around it, so we'll just say if result is okay, then we're fine. Actually, if not result is okay, we'll show the error message. And we might want to like unedit the user. This loading thing is actually going to be more problematic because it blanks out the screen. This is a response of nothing. So I don't really care about that data. Oh, okay. Let's call it a responsive user. I don't think it is, but okay. So const user equals user from model, user model, and let's pull that into place. That is cool. And I think we've got our page ready to go. Save. Let's jump out of Storybook then and jump into the database. So let's start up our database. We've got the database running. That's perfect. Let's go into SQL and do npm run db up. That will get all of the content into place. Yep, it created all of our tables, it created all of our users, created all of our roles. That is perfect. npm run start. We'll come back here to this one. Let's duck out of Storybook, npm run serve, and this will fire up the Vue app. That's cool. Now we are going to bump into an interesting dilemma in a moment, but let's start out going localhost 5000. It definitely hasn't spun up yet. How's the API doing? Ooh, the API crashed. Why is that? Non-arrow functions are forbidden in role spec.ts. Okay, so here in our API, looks like we have a fail, middleware, in role spec. Where is our function? Right there. There's our non-arrow function. Cool. npm run start. And how's this going? Ooh, starting development server. It hasn't built yet, so it'll take it a minute. Is our API going? Go, 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 go. Now, one of the things that we haven't done is built out the API that we're about to call. So we're definitely going to hit that problem as well. We need this users thing, and we need to be able to post to user, and so that will be interesting. But we're about to hit an error that is a little bit different. So let's wait for these things to come back up. The error that we're about to hit is this, and this is really interesting. When we did our API, we did a great job of moving it from email to username. And in our login form, we did not. So right now we can't log in. So let's take that on next. This will be username. This will be username rules. Username. Password is still a password. That's great. Invalid username or password. This is a username. And by the way, it also has roles. Password, username, rules. And the interesting thing now with the username rules is username is required, username must be valid. It's no longer this. We're using the username regex. And that username regex came in from types user. And so now we can validate that it's all lowercase, that it's long enough, all of those pieces. Oh, the password must be 5 characters. I bet we need to replicate this in our user list component. So let's come here and say password rules. We now have 2. Here's the first one that it is required, and the second one that it must be long enough. Password rules comes in right here. Right here. Haha. Clear password, set password. Oh, we nuked the password rules right here. But we can go check it in the save. So set password. If not user dot secret or user dot secret dot length is less than 5. Because we don't have a good way to tell you that it was invalid, we don't have a good way to like block the closing of the dialog, then I'm just going to dump out and not actually set it. I'm not thrilled with that user experience though. Okay. How's that build coming? Okay, we've got it going. Go, 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 go. Ah. There we go. Now we've got our page going. Localhost 5000, and here's our login. We can log in with admin. Oh. Log in with admin and password. And, ooh, unauthorized. We haven't finished tweaking this one out. Let's come into the login control. Now, one of the things that we didn't do a great job here is separating this to emit the events. Right now, we're just actually doing the post straight away. Username. We want to send up the username. And we want this to be, ooh, we get to dig into the store. That will be cool. One of the other things that comes back, const roles equals res.data.user.roles. And we do want to send up the roles too, so that we can do validation like, are you allowed to see this page? Yes, you don't know what that is. We could say const user is a user or undefined that equals res.data.user, and that might get us to a stronger thing. We also haven't defined user yet. Import user. Oh, we do have this user, which doesn't exist. There's our login response, and it's an actual user. There we go. That's what we expect. So that user is what we expect, and now we can say res.data.user roles. Cool. So login into our store. Let's dig into our store. Here in our store, we have the Vuex data. Right now, the Vuex data is an email. Let's change that to username. We have login data. We'll also have roles, which is a user role array. And login data will have that as well. Well, we need to pull in the user role. Let's do that. There we go. So that's our store. Here in, or that's our store types rather. Here, we want this to be username, and we need a roles. That will be a blank array. JWT, username, and roles. So username is username, and roles is roles. Now we did say it was a, it definitely had data. And I don't think that's quite the case. I think this might be undefined. But once it's in our store, it's kind of nice to not have to say, is that a thing? So let's definitely keep that as not blank. We'll just say that's there. Logout, we definitely want to set all three of those to undefined. And now we can do the things. Yes, when we mutate, we will mutate our username to that, and our roles will be that. Roles is a user role array, and we might want to set it to that. Okay. Did we not pull in user role? There we go. Okay. Now, can we log in? Oh, one of the things that I thought was kind of cool was in their example of the login, they had a little bit different title. So I'm going to grab this from my notes here in, not there, here. Forms. No, it was cards. Cards. They had this, which was kind of the card that we were using, but then they also had a card that had a picture above it like this. That looks kind of cool. Let's go into our login view and let's add some cool stuff. So we'll just go grab some, I don't know, random picture. Login. Ooh, now we've got kind of a cool thing. So admin, password, login. We are logged in. Score! Now, one of the things that's cool, here we're going to dig into the Vue Test Utils Chrome plugin. In our store, we can see that we've got that payload and it's ready to go. And state, here's our token, here's our roles, here's our username, and all of those are in the store. This is authenticated, is really cool. We may want to do that for something else. So now we want to navigate to our users page. First step is in the router. We need to tell the router that the page exists. So I'm going to go grab this one and say, okay, so now we have a users thing that is the user list. We'll say this is users. Here's the user list, and that will give it a separate Webpack chunk. That's really cool. Okay, so we can't go to a thing if we're not authenticated, but this user list, we also want to validate that you are a user editor too. So if two.roles, if two.meta.role, let's say here, in the same way that we said this was meta unauthenticated true, let's say this is meta role is user role dot user editor. You must be a user editor to get in. If you're not a user editor, you can't get in through the door. Okay, so if we have a role, then let's say store dot state dot roles. We know that that's not a blank array. Dot find let's see if we can find the 2.meta.role in your list of roles. Const in role. Are you in the role? Now, we went to find it. Let's turn that into a Boolean. So now if you don't have it, it will be false. If you do have it, it will be true. If not in role, then we could throw you out, but let's just say send you back to the home page. Not authorized enough to page. And we can put in the URL. I think that would be helpful to be able to see where you're going. 2.path. 2.path? 2.full path. There we go. Not authorized enough. And we'll do this. Not authorized, and we'll send out that. Okay, so that will validate that if you're in the role, you can get to the page. Let's also build out a link to that. So we have this logout button if you're authenticated. We have this products if you're authenticated. Products is great. Let's also say users, and that goes to users, but that's only is user editor. Well, what's this is user editor? Well, what's this is authenticated? This is authenticated comes in from the getters from the store. So we've got is authenticated. Let's also grab is user editor. Well, is user editor doesn't exist on the store yet, so let's go make it. Here in the getters, we have is authenticated. We can say is user editor. State is the Vuex data. And what we want to return is state.roles.find. User role dot user editor. If we can find that role, then we'll cast it into true false again. Then if you are the user editor, we will return true. And if you're not, then we will return false. You can't see the page if that's there. So then our router check, we should never actually hit this because you should never actually get to it unless you're in the role. User list, we have unexpected empty arrow function on line 100 and 109. User list.view. That's not right. In our components, user list.view, 100 and 109 has an empty. Yes. So what would you like to do about that? Oh, yeah. Let's not pass in an empty function. Let's just pass in nothing. And because we're awaiting it, then it will return a promise of void, and that's totally fine. How we doing? So now we've got a login box. That's pretty cool. Login admin and password. Password. Login. We're logged in. And because we're in this role, we have this users list. That's perfect. Click on users. And of course, we get a not found. We haven't built the admin page yet. Let's go build that admin page. That'll be pretty cool. We'll get it started. So I'm going to go grab this inside the API. Let's open that in code. Now the Express API is going to be pretty cool in digging into all the pieces. Let's say new file. We want this to be users.ts. Now that's not unlike products.ts. Well, in some cases it's very different. But let's start by cloning this. We don't want this to be anonymous though. So let's go grab this mechanism and set that in place here. DB authenticated. We will want to validate that you're in the role user editor. So I need to pull in some authenticate and user role. Here is authenticate. And here is user role. Oh, I guess I also need the in-role middleware. There we go. Get products by page. Get users by page. Okay. So we get a page number. That's perfect. We don't need the active flag in this case. And now we're going to go grab them and return them. That's perfect. So we can do some interesting things. Let's, here when we're inside of SQL Management Studio, we can say select star from, let's switch over from Acme to information schema and say show tables. Here with these tables, we have a bunch of tables, aggregate columns. We have a table called users. So if we say select star from users, there's the users. So we could say select user from users. Now there's this one column that is deleted. So let's say where is deleted equals 0. So don't give me any deleted users. There we go. So to start off, let's go grab the list of users. Select blah, 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 limit. Yep, I still want to do the limit and offset. That's cool. We may want to not have two page sizes. Maybe that needs to move to types. But for now, let's set that in place. Okay, so this is user rows. Okay. Now, that's just the users. We also want to get the groups, the roles associated with each one. Back in MemSQL Studio, we have another table called users and groups. Now, user privileges is definitely going to be the authoritative one. We're making assumptions that groups and roles are aligned, but let's do select star from users and groups. Okay, user and group. So we'll need to do this backtick trick again. User and group from user groups. It'd be nice to be able to join these things, and that could be an interesting thing. Actually, let's try it and see if that works. Select user group from user groups. Inner join users on users group groups.user equals users.user. Now a whole bunch of things. This needs to be backticked. And if we look at these two data sets really interestingly, here's the user and it doesn't have the @ thing. And here's this one, it has the @ and the host. So joining it, these aren't really things that we can join. Now, it would be interesting to not pull back all of the groups, but I think in the shortest term, we may be okay. So let's grab the role rows. And we'll just go grab all the users and all the groups. We don't need to grab page sizes because we don't know if this user is in the same page because, you know, they could be in no groups or they could be in tons of groups. Okay, this one, let's say if not role rows equals, that'll just avoid a null real fast. Now, we want to return a list of users, not a list of rows. So const results equals, that's a user array, equals that. So now we can say user rows dot map. We've got a user, so we could even say let results equals blank, and then we can say results equals that. Another way would just to be, actually let's do it a little bit differently too so that we can avoid that let. We can say const results, that is a user array, is user rows or an empty array dot map. And now as we're mapping, now we know that user is not blank, and we know that roles are not blank. So here we want to, this will return results. That's perfect. Now we want to return username is u.user. That's what is returned here. So select user. Password, nope, secret. Return, can I do that? Nope. Can I do that? Nope. Const user of type user equals that. Return user. Now user isn't done. We still need to go grab roles. Const roles of user role equals an empty array. Now let's go find all of the const user roles equals role rows dot filter r dot user needs to equal user and host. Now that gets us just to the roles associated with this user. User and host is a pretty easy one to do. Let's do that. Const user and host equals, I bet we've actually done that before. Yep, there it is. Oh, haha. There, user and host. So now we're getting that username at thing. Oh, that needs to go in here, by the way. Now we're getting only those roles that are specific to this user. Okay, so user roles dot for each. Ugh. Basically what we're doing is we're saying, go figure out this thing again. So let's move this to a method. Not that. I'm going to create a new service, and I'm going to say user roles from, no, user roles.ts. That works. Export function, user roles from rows. And we're going to do all of this part. So we do need a list of rows. And this will be, what is that? Row data packet array, which is a lousy type, but okay. And we probably need our username to filter it. Now we could pre-filter it, but it could work out pretty well to do it here too. We do need to pull in some types. We also need to pull in some of this stuff. So we did exactly that. We filtered out the roles and there we go. So we filtered out the roles to this particular user, and if we have any, then we can now go loop through all of the things. Let's import the rest of these types. Now the cool thing is, because these are also user role, because these enums match these constants, we can probably just use the enum instead of the constant. Catalog editor, user role.catalog read only. That's less imports here, which is really nice. Let's import row data packet, and we want the one from promise. Okay, so now we have return roles. Now we have this method for flipping from a username and some roles into the roles specific for that user. That's cool. So we can do that here in auth. Let's do that here. Const roles equals user roles from rows. We have username here, and we have rows. Let's pull that in. There we go. Now it takes in a username and a rows, and we eliminate that duplication. That's perfect. Let's do that here as we're pulling back the list of roles as well. Users here, we will go grab the roles. And now this is u.username, or u.user rather, and this is role rows. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we could even just say roles is go grab this. Now that makes it a smidge harder to debug if we're jumping through all the things. But I think we've got it. So we don't want to return the password. We definitely don't. We might want to return a blank secret, but just leaving it off, or maybe even documenting it. No password returned. Now we have a clear path there. Okay. So we've got this new user route here in our app. We're going to pull in the user route. So users, router, users, router, users, router there. Okay, now I really want a unit test around this, especially around this, because that's a little bit hairy. And so in a minute, let's come back to it and build that unit test. But first up, npm run start. Let's fire it up and see if we can do all the things. Okay. I've got the API fired up. I've got the front end fired up. Let's log in. Did I spell password wrong? Yep. We know auth works. Ooh, I think we may have just found a bug because... I got a 500. What 500 did I get? Well, the cool part here is what we can do is let's crash out of this and let's debug it. And now as we debug it, we'll get to see that failure in context and can maybe even step through it. It feels like that failure, though, is just a proxy error because it wasn't started up yet. Let's double check. Admin password. Oh, we still got a 500. That is cool. Oh, is it still spinning up? I think I've done something strange in my app.js, or app.ts rather. Users router. Let's fire this up again. It's so close. I bet we may also have failing unit tests, and that might be the cause of our concern. Still starting though. Debug console. Show me the thing. It's building. It's building. Go, 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 go. Oh, so close, so close. Just is running tests. Is it running? Yes, there we go. Now it's running. Show me the listening on port 3000. Perfect. Okay, let's log in. Here's our login, and we're logged in. Perfect. We switch to users. Ooh, this one has failed. Select command denied to user admin for table users. That's cool. So right now we're running as root when we logged in here, not here, here, and we don't yet have permission to be able to get at this information schema table. That's interesting. Let's go create a migration that will get us there. cd SQL npm run db migrate create admin, nope, yeah, user editor role. Okay, so this user editor role doesn't have enough permissions. SQL, migrations, SQL, user editor role up and down. There we go. User editor role up and down. So the one thing that we're missing here is super. Well, that's kind of the industrial strength thing. But super gives us the ability to set password and get and set user details. We could also set particular permissions on the information schema database and the MemSQL database, but this gets it done. Revoke super on from role user editor, and this is to role user editor. Okay. npm run db up. Okay, so now we've got that additional database permission in place. It looks like our app is still running. Let's try to grab the user list again. Nope. Select command denied. Looks like I haven't fleshed permissions correctly. Well, we'll take that one offline. We've definitely done quite a bit today. Let's log out and log in as website and password. Now we're logged in as website, and we don't have that users piece. This user doesn't have permission to do it. That's perfect. But if we log in as admin, now we do have permission to view the users, and that's perfect. So we're going to dig into, we'll dig in some more to the particulars of building out that user administration screen, and in particular, the permissions that we'll need to be able to do these activities. It was really cool to use Storybook to spin up that control and to then